I actually oddly agree with your position on this, and I can explain myself why. So Frankie and I have actually had this conversation before the question was even proposed on the show. But personally, obviously we'd want to have a future together and children. So I would take the bullet personally because I think that he would be mentally stronger to take care of the children afterwards. I think I'm a lot weaker. So after he died, it'd be harder for me to just live without him. And
this is if you had kids,
children.
Correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And just even about the honorable question, I do think I am honorable, but I think he's more honorable.
Yeah. I mean, so this is actually this is actually one of the arguments I make. Even in the scenario, let's say we have 2 kids together, if we look to men to be providers and protectors, well then, if we're looking at this from this new angle of what's best for the children then, I think, and we know the outcomes of comparing single father households as compared to single mother households. Children raised in single father households tend to fare far better than the reverse. There's actually a very compelling argument to be made that actually it's better if the father survives in these circumstances.
But if his role is to be a protector, wouldn't he have already failed at that role and therefore not be a suitable protector for the children?
Well, you could.
That's a good point.
I mean, you're making some assumptions there. I mean, who's to say that he would fail at protecting the children?
I don't think necessarily. I get what you mean, but I feel like if the father, which I do feel in most, not all cases, are usually more of the provider for the family in general, that they're going to be able to continue still providing for their children. Whereas, let's say it was a stay-at-home mom. Now what?
Well,
I mean, we can do let's say all day.
To provide a little pushback on the other end of the table to the question which is asked of Brian is, and forgive me, I'll steel man the position. You can tell me if I got this question wrong, but you asked, wouldn't the man already have failed in his position as a protector if this happens? But that's actually a straw man to Brian's position, because Brian already laid down that men have no obligation to protect women. He said that he would lay down his life maybe for his children. So it actually logically follows what he's saying when he says, no, I'm not going to lay down my life for a woman. So how would he fail at his job as a protector when he doesn't believe that that's his obligation?
You believe your role as a father is to be a provider and a protector, but not as to your wife?
Not to the mother of your children?
There's 2 different things here. I think you can absolutely still be a protector, but if there's some scenario where the calculus is, well, if my role as protector it's not even necessarily the role as protector. You could still protect her with the hoped or anticipated outcome that you both still survive. But in some scenario where one of you has to die, I don't think it has anything really to do with protection necessarily if she's the one who has to die.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also on a case-to-case basis, because there are a lot of situations where the man is more financially, makes more money, but then there's also the opposite. So if you want to really sit down and talk to your partner about that, that's maybe one thing, but...
Well, men are typically the breadwinner, typically. Yeah. Not always, though. Certainly there are women who are breadwinners too, but...
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's a case-to-case basis because, for example, my dad made more money, but I would have been way better off just being raised by my mom because money wasn't as important as...
Were you raised by your father?
I was raised by... Well, my parents are divorced, but I was mostly raised by my mom. But my dad would not have been able to...
Sure.
Emotionally...
I'm not saying that...
Even though he made more money.
There's more important things.
You're taking love out of the equation.
Are fathers incapable of loving their children?
No, it's just your argument doesn't take love into account. It just talks about how you're the provider and the protector for the children first and foremost.
I'm just speaking in generalities here.
How the outcome would be, if you needed to provide for the children. And I think you're taking providing and looking at that as like monetarily is
Do you think fathers,
equal to love, basically. But
it's not. Well, that sounds like you're making an argument that the man is far more disposable than the woman.
No, I'm saying that it's a case-to-case basis because money is not the most important thing in a child's life.
Sure. So if it's a case-by-case basis, then Brian would be right in saying that he should not immediately move towards the self-sacrifice because in his particular case, especially, it may be the case that would not be in the best interest of the children who he would make the sacrifice for, right?
I'm not saying he's wrong for feeling that way about himself. Like, that's his
About
position.
not being willing to take the bullet?
Yeah, you can have that.
I think we can all agree that you all think I'm entitled to have that position, but I think you all object to the position.
No.
Come on, you guys all object.
Not taking the bullet?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah,
as a
I-
man,
I-
There's been a lot of subtle objection, whether you see it or
I
not.
object.
The pushback to Brian has definitely been seemingly. Now this is seeming, so this would be inductive logic, not deductive, for those of you on that side of the table. But it does seem like you are pushing back on his worldview here a little bit. So I think that's fine, right? That's what the show is for.
Yeah,
But I'd like to hear it.
I object to that worldview.
that I wouldn't be willing to
Yeah,
sacrifice my life for.
Yeah, I think that there's probably not the right value maybe that you're going to put on your marriage.
That's fine. One last thing on this. We will get to the bear versus man thing as soon as we get past this. Do you think, because one of the criticisms I receive when I bring up this argument quite a bit, sometimes from the panel, but oftentimes from the chat, they're like, Brian, you're a beta male for not being willing to sacrifice your life
That is so rude.
for your woman. I don't give a I don't care. I disagree with that.
Look what he's done, people.
Do you guys think it's less? And I don't like the beta alpha thing. I don't care. I don't use that kind of language really, but just for simplicity's sake, do you think that it would be so-called less alpha to be unwilling to die for your wife or girlfriend? Would it be a beta male?
Yeah.
Starting with you.
It's hard to say because like alpha is so like animal kingdom, and animal kingdom's all about survival.
We are.
Well, and actually,
So if you want to survive as an alpha male, then you would not want to take the bullet, and that's
It is kind of a good point.
Mm-hmm.
well, that's kind of a little bit
But not
my
no,
argument
because
here.
lions. That's what the male lion is for, is to like defend the girls.
no the female lions.
Yeah, they
Actually,
they
yeah,
hunt.
isn't
The
it the-
females
Lead-
hunt.
lead the
the
pack.
females hunt, but it's when another male lion comes
Okay,
in
no,
that the
she
other
is
male
right. She
lion
is right.
goes
Well,
in
and
Yeah,
actually,
kills it.
just one thing on the whole alpha beta thing. This originated in like someone who did a study on wolves, but it actually was totally debunked. There's more nuance to this whole the categorization in wolf packs, for example, than an alpha.
Yeah, it's not so easily broken down into just
Yeah.
alpha and
Yeah.
betas. So,
But it is somewhat helpful
Parties.
a little bit. But
Omegas.
so do you think it's beta or less alpha to
totally
not want to
delta.
take a bullet for your girl? Quick answers if you can.
Yes, no.
Just call me a beta Brian. Just do it. I don't care.
Okay, yeah, I do think
It
it's
is?
a little bit
Okay.
less, yeah.
Okay.
Beta Brian.
Beta Brian.
I kind of see your point, just because if
What
you're
point?
an alpha, then you might have like more to lose per se. You've accomplished more in your life. Like you have this podcast, you're successful.
I'm not
versus-
calling myself, just to be clear, not calling myself an alpha
I'm
male.
just saying, like, I could see your point of view on
Signal.
that. I'm not saying I agree or disagree, but,
But one
like,
could argue because he's done all that, he's already accomplished it. So
that's true.
Your thought?
Beta.
Beta.
I honestly wouldn't say either or.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
I
All right.
How? I
not my
just don't
preference, but I don't think you're a beta
understand
for
I don't
having that
understand
decision.
that.
So, because this occurred to me, right? Like, because a lot of people in the chat, and maybe it's not your position that this would make somebody less alpha or beta, but like, let's think of some conquerors throughout history. You guys know Genghis Khan?
No.
Okay, Genghis Khan, he was like in the 12th century or something. He had 14 wives of high rank. I got these notes here. Oh my God. God.
Donated $200.
Sorry, thank you, man.
Father
Thank you,
brings
thank you,
home
thank you. Just trying to make a point.
$250K plus a year, and the mother is unemployed without any educational background. Who should really take the bullet for the future of the children? Alpha Brian.
Right. I mean, if you've already had kids, I mean, in no scenario do I think the man takes the bullet. But if the guy's the breadwinner He's more capable of protecting the children. He's more capable of providing for the children, assuming he's the breadwinner. So,
Okay,
put.
but let's say it's the opposite and the roles were reversed, and it was the male who was unemployed and the wife was bringing in that money.
You would have a stronger argument for at least one argument for.
Still not willing to say that it's a stronger argument because then we're deferring away from outcomes, which is what Brian's position is initially anyways, that the outcome for single parent homes, generally speaking, for men is better than it is for women. So even then, even with that pushback, he would still have to take that in consideration. So I still wouldn't consider that to be a great counter argument.
Yeah. Anyways,
But
hold on. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back here. So Genghis Khan, he had 14 wives of higher rank. I Googled this. He had many lesser wives. It's estimated he had another 500 concubines who also bore him children. Wow. Genghis Khan, founder and Khan of the largest contiguous empire in history. I suspect if he had this dilemma of he had to sacrifice his life for one of his dozens of wives, right? Do you think, would he be a beta male because he didn't want to die for one of his many, many wives?
I think we all know that he didn't care about those
Exactly.
ladies.
But does that, you could argue Genghis Khan.
Well, I'm not so sure that.
Andrew doesn't like this
We've got a loaded presupposition here from you. I'm not sure that I'm willing to concede he didn't care about him.
Yeah, he probably did.
I'm not willing to concede that.
Well put, Andrew. He probably cared about them. Would he sacrifice his life for one of them? Probably. He'd just be like, I got 50. Let me just get another one.
I don't think that is right.
Okay,
on
Alpha?
Genghis
Isn't
Khan's
that
part.
treating
Wait, hold on.
the women
We're
as
upset about
disposable?
Genghis Khan because of.
No,
Hold on.
you
I
gave
think
us
there's
the
other things.
scenario.
There might have been other things.
Was this a moral man?
Could have been other
that
things
you
you could have been
wanna die
upset
on
about.
this hill?
The conquering. Sorry, what?
I was basically just saying, is this a moral man? He could.
Genghis Khan?
Yeah.
I mean,
Was he moral?
Do you look
Might-
up to this guy?
Might
Yeah.
makes
Probably
you
not.
Yeah, that's what I'm
I
saying.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know Genghis Khan.
So,
I don't want to be one of
what do you
14
mean?
this your
wives.
dream?
How's sex workers going to talk about who's moral? What?
I am not a
She's
sex
not.
worker.
She
is not a
These
prostitute.
two, it's
Raise your hand if you're a sex worker.
Have you
So
Raise
that
your
we
hand.
can be clear.
I feel like you just kind of zone out and then come
Hold
back.
on.
It's just-
Okay, hold on.
Go smoke another cigarette.
Very
Can't
close
call
attention
anybody
to the
else.
But let me ask-
conversation.
Just
I
cigarettes
interject
are getting to
myself
your
where it's
head.
Hold
appropriate,
on.
But I got to ask, when you ask this question of morality,
I am not a sex worker.
There is a Christian I see. There is a Christian I
She's
see
a
on the
makeup
panel,
artist.
So she's not a relativist. She probably has some standard justification for morals, but you guys are probably relativists, right? So why would you say
I'm
is he a
also
moral
Christian,
man or not?
So I.
What's that?
I'm also a Christian, so my morals are based on biblical values.
For shizzle.
Okay, that's where you justify your morality then on God.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. So, moving over though to the next gal, when you said, "Is this moral or this not?"
Grid One Motorsports donated $200.
Gotta preserve the bloodline.
The bloodline must
Gotta
be
preserve
preserved. Girls like the who are in the second seat are not worthy of ending the bloodline of a man willing to take a bullet for others. Do the right thing and step in front of it.
Why was
the girl?
man's bloodline be preserved but not the one? Aren't I?
Richard Dawkins wrote a book called The Selfish Gene.
Oh my god.
And I think there is something, look, it would be selfish, but if you could argue the most alpha thing, Genghis Khan, she takes the bullet. I can just find another wife, have 7 children with her. If she dies, 7 children with the next
great,
woman.
and that works for
7
you.
children with the next woman.
That works for you. What do you
would
think a woman
kind
is
of-
going to
Well,
want, though? Do
and
you think a woman-
continuously moving on to
But
the
she-
next woman, that's kind of a hoe-ass mentality, to be honest
Fine,
with you.
call me a hoe.
Like-
I'm a live. I'm a survive.
So, going back to the comment that was previous or whatever, where, if a woman were to move on right away.
Hilly donated $200.
You've invoked.
Yes.